So we are getting started here on looking at value of the basic shapes. So in our last module, we looked at drawing the basic shapes. And so if you're still having problems drawing the basic shapes, please go back to last module and review those videos. Remember, we're using more of an overhand grip. We're using our whole arm to draw, and we're using the ghosting method. Okay, so for a circle, you want to just kind of get your whole arm into it while holding your fine charcoal like that, and you want to just keep ghosting until you start seeing a nice circle form, and then you can press a little bit harder and keep going until you're happy with it. And then you can erase the parts that are not working out for you. The other thing that I would suggest is to put your drawing across the room once you've drawn a circle or an ellipse or whatever it is, and look at it from across the room, because especially when you're drawing large, it's hard to see it when you're close up to it. So what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to just reintroduce these basic shapes and the ghosting method. So you might want to get your newsprint and just practice along with me. Just practice this ghosting using your whole arm from the shoulder. Really practice trying to get the idea behind the ghosting, behind the whole thing, is that we're used to holding our pencils like this, and we're used to kind of really trying to concentrate and draw something, and it's hard to get it right the first time. But if you do the ghosting method and you use your whole arm to do it, if you have enough patience, it's just easier to get something accurate with this kind of motion. All right, so this is your circle. I want you to practice the circle over and over and over again. The ellipse is very important, because the ellipse is your basis for your cylinder. Right? So an ellipse, is a circle that's viewed on its edge. We talked about, I have pens in my cup, but we talked about how if you put a cup and you hold it directly close to you so that you're looking at the cup, and you gradually turn it this way, you start to get an ellipse. So the ellipse, you just want to do the same thing. Practice ghosting. I've been seeing a lot of ellipses that look like this, and that's not an ellipse, or one that's like flat on the bottom and goes up like that. So what you want to do is just practice that movement instead of trying to painstakingly create one that way. You want to just do the ghosting method, especially with the ellipse. Ellipses are particularly hard. Keep practicing. I mean, I still can't get them right on the first time. I just do this until I can start to really see it when it's taking shape. So the cylinder, I'm going to try this a little bit smaller. Sorry, I'm out of newsprint. All right, so with the cylinder, you want to practice, you can do ellipses and cylinders at the same time. Practice a page of ellipses, and then come back and turn them into cylinders by putting parallel lines on either side. And you want to have, the curved surface has to have a curved line. Or you can practice just doing an ellipse down here, because that's what that curved line represents. All right, so practice, get a whole page of on your scrap paper, just to kind of get loosened up. Okay, get a whole page of ellipses and cylinders going, just to get warmed up. Then we're going to do spheres, cylinders, and cubes for value. Okay, so I'm just wanting to remind you of your basic shapes and how to practice them. As we're going, we want to get our shapes just right. before we start to add value, because adding value is a lot of work, and you don't want to start painstakingly adding value to something that isn't drawn correctly, because you'll just have to start over again. All right, so that leaves us with cube. All right, so we want to do sphere today. Want to do cylinder. And we want to do a cube. Now the thing with the cubes are tough because it's a bunch of parallel lines, and you want to keep the edges of the cube that are standing upwards parallel with the edge of your page, or it'll look like, because your page is at a right angle, your cube also needs to be, or else it'll look like it's slanted. All right, so practicing with the parallel lines helps with getting cubes right. You can also put a box in front of you. That's what I would recommend practicing from life, looking at having a box that's right in front of you. But if you, and also on this, you're going to want to draw that corner of the box coming towards you so that you can make sure you're seeing at least 3 sides. So what I do when I'm drawing a cube just from memory is I start with that corner that's facing me. I choose an angle for down here. Whatever angle I choose for the corner going back or the plane going back, just try to make it parallel here. And then this line has to be parallel to this one, right? Or it's going to look off. We're going to learn how to draw a box with perspective in the perspective module. Right now it's not really necessary to do that. We're trying to develop our perceptual skills right now. So we want to draw that way. And sometimes it gets off. You want to try to keep these lines parallel to the edge of your paper. Otherwise it's going to look like your cube is the Leaning Tower of Pisa. This is already looking funky to me. So it looks like yours truly needs to practice cubes. So this line, just keep it basically parallel. So we'll practice that. And then once you get back, once you draw something, get away from it. Put it across the room and step way back. And you'll see if it's, whatever it is that isn't right will stick out. So just do a whole page of that. Try different angles when you see cubes. From just depending on your eye level, they're going to look different. Just depending on what angle you're looking at it from. So just keep practicing that. So those are your basic shapes. That's a review of your basic shapes. So for value, what I want to do is look at the basic shapes and talk about light patterns. So what I want you to do for your assignment this week, and we have a shorter week since we had a holiday Monday, but what I want you to do is do a sphere based on the classic order of light, which I have posted here underneath me. And so I want you to take your 18 by 24 drawing paper. That's your nice paper. First, practice your basic shapes on your newsprint. Really get comfortable with it. Then take your nicer drawing paper, and we're going to do turn it landscape-wise. And you can kind of do like we did with the bottle, where you maybe just have half a page like that. I want you to do a sphere on one side and a cylinder on the other side. Or you can, I want that sphere to be big. So I want the sphere to take up this side, the cylinder to take up this side, and we'll do another page, and you can practice your cube on that page. So the first thing I'm going to do here on my with my sphere is I'm going to just practice ghosting a sphere, and I want it to be fairly large. Remember, this is just going to be, it's going to be a circle until you add value to it. Wow, this isn't looking too good. Getting there. All right, so don't worry too much. Don't get too worried about how messy it can be to use the vine charcoal. All right, so let's take a moment and look over here at the classic order of light. So I know it's probably a little bit small on your screen right now, so you may want to go to the drawing one, go to content on your iCollege page, and you can go to module 1, sorry, this is module 2 now, module 2 folder, and you'll have you'll have a classic order of light diagram there that you can download onto your computer. You can print it out, whatever you want. But when I'm drawing a sphere, I usually, okay, we're going to pretend that the light is coming from this upper left-hand corner. And so that's going to put, just like the diagram is there, we're going to put, that'll put our highlight somewhere about here, and that's going to put our coarse shadow somewhere around in here. So remember that coarse shadow is just like kind of a crescent moon shape. And what I want to make sure that you guys don't do is when you're, these spheres get dark really quickly. So I don't want you to have a heavy line here or a heavy line here. What we got to work on is shading, and using your blending stick, which mine is here, to make sure that we don't have any hard lines. All right, so you can start this with your vine charcoal, but I don't want you to do the whole drawing with the vine charcoal, because vine charcoal is impermanent and it comes off. It's really handy to do light areas with it, because you see that is staying there once I blend it. So you can start with it, but you're going to need to bring in your heavier charcoal pencil to put in some of the lights. I mean, some of the darks. All right. So remember what we have. Look at the diagram there. We've got coarse shadows right here. We've got the highlight right here. We've got the light, which is coming down this way. Coarse shadow. Then back here towards the back, I'm going to have to probably use my eraser once I get everything going. And I'm going to have to put in some reflected light here in the back. That reflected light is going to help really pop this sphere up off of the core shadow, off of the cast shadow. The cast shadow is the shadow that is cast by the sphere itself. So that's going to be in here somewhere. I'm just making this up, looking at that. So we had talked about how the darkest area is right down here. The darkest area, because it's not getting any light at all, is going to be down here. All right, and we'll get to that later on. So what I want you to do, get your sphere, draw it so you're happy with it. This one might not be exactly perfect. Just like anything else in this class, be willing to make corrections as you go. It's not as big a deal as it feels like to correct something, especially when you're using this vine charcoal. So I'm going to start. It's going to have to be a lot darker than that as we go, but what I'm going to do is just start with some basic things, and then if you don't have one of these blending sticks, go and get paper towel. Paper towel is great for blending. And I usually actually do this with a paper towel, and I forgot until just now that I don't have one on me. So I'm going to actually just practice using my blending stick. You can use your hands to blend too, but that kind of ends up putting oils on your paper and your hand gets really dirty. But I'm going to do it anyway because this drawing is a bit big for that blender. I'm going to take out some of this area over here. Alright, another thing that I'm going to have you do, you know what, maybe we'll do 2 spheres on this page. I'm going to do 2 spheres so I can show you. It's a lot of fun with these value drawings to start with your paper already coated in vine charcoal, and then you end up erasing out some of the lighter areas. Okay, so what I'm starting to get the value into the sphere. I know that this area is going to be lighter over here, so I'm trying to leave the white of the paper. If you have a paper towel, you can blend in a circular motion. Try it with the edge of this thing. Okay, now here's the trick. Remember I talked before about having your pencil sharpened in a way that allows you to use the edge of it and not just the point. So this is a good time to review that sharpening your pencil video from YouTube, and try to get that straight razor blade or something that exposes more of your charcoal, so that when I'm putting down value, I don't want a bunch of lines in here. So I don't want to draw like this. What I want to do is draw overhand, and I want to lay down tone by using the edge of this of the charcoal without making a bunch of scratchy lines. Okay, so I'm going to just try to do that. It also helps to have a piece of sandpaper like this, so I can get out any ridges on that edge will transfer to your page. If you don't have sandpaper, you can use just a piece of paper to smooth out the edges, so that you get a nicer, rounder edge. But if you do sandpaper, you can rock it back and forth and try to make it smooth. So then I want to put in some more charcoal in this core shadow area. So notice I am laying it down. Now if I want to be able to lay down my pencil even more flat, then I need to take some of this wood off with an X-Acto. And the video will show you that. But for right now, I'm just going to try to put in some tone with the charcoal in the core shadow area, which you can kind of still see is this crescent moon shape. I want to try to get tone instead of lines, remember, so trying to keep it pressed. And it's good to use a 4B or a 6B for this. 2B for the core shadow area tends to put down too many scratches. So you want to get an extra soft charcoal to do this part. Now remember that on the video introducing value, the presentation introducing value, I talked about how you're going to, pressure is another way of getting a dark line. So if I press down a lot down here, I'm going to get a darker area. And then if I just have the lightest touch possible up here, I can put down a lighter value. And I can come back with this and blend it in. And I end up getting With blending, you have to sometimes put down charcoal and blend it several times to get the desired effect. And I don't want a harsh line. I want a gradation, so I can do that by working in circles here. I've been trying that with my hand, or I highly recommend paper towel for this purpose of blending out lines. All right, so I can put down value with this dark pencil. I blend with my blending stick and a paper towel, and I use my Kneaded Eraser to take away to erase basically. So I can, if I wanted this to be lighter, I'm not happy with how much charcoal I put down, I can erase, but see, it leaves that harsh line, which we don't want, so we'll go back and blend that out. And because this is a round surface, the highlight it puts on here will be round. Okay, and I'm going to keep going back and forth. I'm going to keep doing this until I'm happy with how dark it is. And then when I'm ready, I don't want a super dark outline here with the charcoal pencil. I want to try to do a light outline so it gives it some definition, but if it's super dark and heavy, your outline, it's just going to flatten out your illusion. Remember, what we're trying to do is get an illusion going here. And this one, I don't love it. It is a 4B. I'm going to keep using it though. I think I can. 6B is the softest one, and it's ideal to put down more dark. So if you haven't already, you might want to pause the video and just draw along with me. And remember that this is going to be a process of putting down charcoal, taking away charcoal, and blending charcoal. You keep that crescent moon shape or it'll start to flatten out. Okay. Now what gets tricky with these blending sticks is my stick is already really dirty, so it also puts down charcoal. It blends charcoal, but if it's really dark, it will also you could draw with it, which is really handy and will come in handy when we start the still life area. But right now, if yours is, you find you're putting down more charcoal instead of blending, that's when a clean paper towel comes in handy and you can blend without putting down additional charcoal. So keep on doing this until it's done. So in this demo, I'm not going to make you watch me do the whole thing. I can complete it and come back and do a recap video. But remember, you're going to have your lightest area, your highlight here. So this is going to be your highlight. And then your light is this area in here. You're going to have your core shadow which is that crescent moon shape. And then you're going to have your reflected light, which is in here. And remember, if this is going to be an 8, the reflected light is just, you don't want that harsh line. It's just going to be a little bit lighter there. And then your cast shadow can work on the same thing, putting down some this line down here. Okay, and then when I'm done doing this, I'm going to go back and I'm going to clean up the whole thing. Just try to clean up the areas outside the circle and make sure that this your outline of your circle, it should not be super dark because it'll flatten out your illusion. But it should be there for definition, so you have to it's kind of a fine line. Alright, so work on that, work on getting your sphere. See, this thing, it will put down a line, it becomes a drawing implement after a while. So if you have that chamois cloth, if you're somebody who bought that chamois, then you can use that, and it acts almost as an eraser. This puts down charcoal when you use it, but that chamois cloth, it does the same thing as this kneaded eraser. Unless it gets super dirty, then you can start putting down a little bit with it. But for the most part, the chamois cloth is really good to take away too much if something's gotten too dark on you. So again, just work with this blending. Gosh, it looks so much different on the screen than it does on my page. I think I'm a little bit overlit my drawing area. So anyway, just keep working on getting this blended. And there it is. So you want to get your highlight, your light, and your shadow. You want to take out any harsh lines. It is a process. It's kind of a push and pull kind of process. And you want to try to blend away by using a circular motion to blend away the areas that have harsh lines. Okay, so work on that. And then we're going to start the cylinder on this side. Work on blending out those lines. This is not done. This hasn't had enough time put into it. So I want you to make sure you don't stop when it's at that stage. I just don't want to have you guys watch me struggle over it for an hour or whatever. So start with your cylinder. Get your, get this is a little crooked. I tend to draw a little bit crooked when I'm sitting down with this method. In class, I would be standing at an easel drawing, but I had to put my board down so I can film it. So remember, if my line goes this way, my whole thing is going to look like it's tilted, right? So I saw a lot of that in the first module. So what I want you to do is make sure that the edge of your cylinder is parallel to the edge of your paper. and that they're parallel with one another, and that you're not drawing a straight bottom across. The bottom here is to represent the bottom of that ellipse. So also another thing you can do when you're drawing your cylinder is you can draw a straight line across so that you know where your ellipse is going to end. You can do a center line if you want, and then a straight line across that. I know that my the bottom should join at the same part, so I can do that to help make sure that they're coming down to the same spot. Okay, so this is a good way to start. So when a cylinder is lit, let's say it's lit from the upper left also, it's going to get where the light is striking it, it's going to be the most light right here. It's going to have some reflected light over on this side, and it's going to be going into shadow this way. And it's also going to have a cast shadow. So I'm just going to start it like I did with that one, with the vine charcoal. I tell my classes also that to beware, because I tend to be a little heavy-handed, just always naturally. My hand's a little heavy. Let me see if I can get the picture of this cylinder up. That might help. I'm going to turn off the classic order of light, and we'll turn on the cylinder. And put that over here. Alright, so there is your cylinder. It's lit from a different direction on the picture, but just so that you can see what it might look like. Mine is kind of the light's hitting more in the center instead of on the edge. What I would recommend that you do at home for all of these drawings is try to find objects that are cylindrical. You know, if you have an oatmeal box, one of those old oatmeal boxes, or just anything that's cylindrical, and if you can get a handheld light of some sort, like a clip light, or maybe it's the light of your phone set up some way so that you can light something. Turn off the overhead light and light something from the side and see how that changes. See how that changes the shape of what you're drawing. Not the shape of the cylinder, obviously, but the shape of the light patterns. This will move, and you'll get different areas of reflected light. it's starting to distort in the camera view, but just so you know, it's not really looking like that in my view, okay? But now when I put it back down, it's going to look like that again. I'm going to use a little bit more of this sandpaper. What happens over time is when you draw, it shapes your charcoal. So I'm going to try to round it out again so that I can put it down. And that's what I tell people with this assignment. Don't be afraid of the dark. Look at that picture. Look how dark that line is. That's right here. You got to put down. You have to really put down some charcoal for that. And once you use your blender, some of it will go away. So you wanna keep coming back to it. But in my light area, I think I've gotten it a little bit dark. So I can go back and remove some of that. And remember to use different varying amounts of pressure for the value that you're trying to create. I'm putting a good amount on here because I want this to be a little darker. But then as I move over here, I can make it a lighter pressure so that it's not putting down quite as much. And then I'm going to go back with my blender and I'm going to blend it together. This reflected light's pretty easy. I usually just use an eraser for that. And, you know, it depends on your picture. The picture on the screen underneath me has reflected light down in the shadow area. So it would be right here on my drawing. There's some reflected light there. So it just depends on what you're looking at as to where you decide to put it. I'm really at a loss without my paper towel. I'm gonna have to go get one. This is where having the kneaded eraser comes in handy because you can shape it and it can be used to get nice gradations. And again, I don't want this line at all, so taking out a little bit more of that than I need. Varying the pressure on this stick too, because now you see how much charcoal it's got on it. It's putting some down. When your kneaded eraser gets dirty, this one has gotten to be very small. So I have this one, which is actually really hard. Different ones have different, this one is a bit hard. This one I like because it's softer. So I can combine these two together, and once you get too much charcoal on it, it doesn't work that well. So you take it and you pull it and try to get a cleaner surface for the outside. You can also change the shape of it. You can make it into a ball if you want to use that. Okay. Don't want that harsh line, so I'm trying to bring it out a little bit. sometimes there's a gradation on the top of the cylinder as well, where maybe light hits it and maybe it gets a little gradation from one side to the other. So if it did, it would be a little darker on this side if it had a gradation, and a little bit lighter on this side where the light is really hitting it. You can also bring out your plastic eraser, this white one, if you need a little help. The kneaded eraser is not cleaning up enough. Alright, so work on the cylinder. This one is not in a good spot yet. Alright, so work on your cylinder, your sphere, and the cube. As I said, I'll finish these up so they look nice, and I'll come back and I'll do a little recap. But what I'm going to do now is turn it over and start the cube. What really needs to be done to this one is you really want to kind of blend out, have a nicer gradation in here. Work through that, and then I come back again with my eraser, just because I think I may have put down a little bit too much charcoal. And I might even come back again and put down a little more dark, so I don't have to blend it over this way as much. Dropped my pencil. Alright, so let me see if I can find that pencil. And I tell you what, I'm going to come back because I dropped my pencil. I can't seem to find it. I'm going to go ahead and stop this one. This is going to be just the cylinder and the sphere, and then I will do the cube